see them in the centre. Don't you worry about that. We'll put the wind up them.
I don't know if they're coming to the maze today, but
Oh, they will. Don't you worry about that. Sydney, wag. Look at me. Look in my eyes. And you look in his eyes, and is the man you've known your whole life. And he says, let's put the wind up them. That'll teach them.
Yes, that'll teach them.
The Apocalypse players present A Christmas Inheritance, a Call of Cthulhu 7th edition scenario by Danann McAleer in the style of M.R. James, with Joseph Chance as Edward Caister, Dan Wheeler as Reverend Peregrine McCutcheon, Dominic Allen as Sidney Wagner, and Danann McAleer as the Keeper of Arcane Lore. Part 8. Epiphany.
yes, I do love a prank. Where's that Mr. Prude gone?
Oh, yeah, well, he's just behind us, I imagine. Don't you worry, he'll meet us in there.
I said, Peter, sort of keeping up with
yes.
it. Were you around last night?
Last night? No. I've only just arrived, darling.
How did you get on with the road? Because last night there was a tree down.
Oh, yes. I tried to count the cattle path to get you unawares, but there was a tree blocking the way. You're right.
So how did you not pass us?
Oh, I jumped it, darling. I told Adam to go back to the town, but I'm here now. Let's play a little prank on them, like old time's sake. Remember in the choir? Jump out at each other? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And he sort of dragged you around enough corners now that I think, unfortunately, you can't recall which direction you came.
You do know the way out, right?
Oh, yes. Don't worry about that. No. We've been here for a while. And he pulls you along with him. Now, the others, you've arrived at the family plot. Is there anything you're looking for specifically?
Thomas Caldwell's grave is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think that would be our first port of call to see if there's an obviously recent grave.
There is, and so there's several graves. There's the three sort of quite obvious ones that seem to be quite ornate, and then there's a series of very basic tombstones. So what are you looking? Are you looking at the names on the graves, or are you looking for a specific name? Or
I think how many gravestones are we looking at in total? Is it enough? Are there a few enough that we could make? In just
there are three big graves, sort of big memorials, and there are three
Ned, would you look at the size of those sort of memorials, mausoleums? Who are they? Are they family crypts, or are they for individual people? Let's have a closer look at those.
Yes. Why don't you take that one and I'll look at this one, and this one looks very old.
So the three biggest, the names are quite obvious. Henrietta and Bartholomew Caldwell. There are dates as well for their births and deaths. And then Sarah Lee, and the rest are just tombstones. And the tombstones, glancing at them, you can see the names quite clearly. There's Lawrence, Jonathan, and Thomas. But they're all far humbler gravestones than the other three.
Sarah Lee of the famous Gâteau.
Yes.
One of students of the great Parisian cake making.
It's less a mausoleum and more a sort of freezer full of gâteau. Ice cream cake.
The horror. I instantly have to roll sanity. No.
So the only names that we can see on these graves are Henrietta and Bartholomew Caldwell.
There's three.
Sarah Lee on the big ones.
Yeah.
And then the more humble ones are Lawrence, Jonathan, and Thomas. No surname?
Yes. Caldwell.
Oh, all Caldwells as well.
Yeah. Except Sarah Lee. That's the only one without.
And she's one of the huge memorials.
She is.
Which is the eldest out of those three big ones?
It seems that it's either probably, at a glance, Henrietta or Bartholomew. One of the two. But
so the Henrietta and Bartholomew are not together?
They are, yes. And they seem of the same era. But there may be you'd have to do a sort of maybe a history or archaeology check to gauge the ages of all of them compared to the others, I suppose.
These are quite fascinating, I say, even as I cast my gaze back over my shoulder in the direction of the maze, with a vague sense of unease. But then once I turn my attention back, I am entirely consumed by looking at Henrietta and Bartholomew from the archaeological angle. If I could combine them. Well, yes, I've done well. A 21. That's a hard success. Not excellent, but a hard.
Excellent. So you see that they're probably the oldest there in terms of the weathering of the stone. Henrietta's grave says she was born in 1592, died in 1634. Bartholomew, born 1571, died in 1635. They seem quite standard. Sarah Lee's, the third one, you realise is slightly more modern. It seems considerably more modern, even though it's in the same style. And there is no birth or death date on it, just the name Sarah Lee. And then there are the 3 tombstones.
Could I do a spot hidden?
Yeah?
I'd like to do a spot hidden to see whether anyone has recently tended or laid any flowers on any grave in particular, whether any one of these has had any more specific attention paid to it. And that is a extreme success on my spot.
Well, that's what we like. It's very clear to you that the weeds have only been cut away from Sarah Lee's grave, and also that the soil is still somewhat disturbed around Thomas's grave, but that's what you'd expect.
Fine, because,
he only died a few months ago, from what you know. But yes, it seems odd also the fact that, judging from the dates, Lawrence and Jonathan Caldwell were more recent than Sarah Lee, perhaps. It's hard to tell because her dates aren't on the but either way, there's 3 memorials and 3 very basic gravestones, which seems it's hard to work out what the logic is there.
Well, yes, except, Ned, you might think it's strange that there's 3 very grand gravestones here and 3 very humble ones, but let me tell you, having spent quite a lot of time around churchyards, that families come in and out of wealth, and often one generation they can afford quite a grand tomb, and the next something quite humble. That might explain this. Sure. The most curious thing to me is a name in the family plot that is not, the surname is not Caldwell, and this I can tell you, this grave has been the one that's been tended most attentively and recently.
What? Sarah Lee?
There is one other name there that you recognise, even though
Lawrence
it's not one that
Caldwell designed the maze, I believe.
Yes, it was Lawrence, isn't it? Yes.
That's what you seem to have heard, anyway.
No, but that's a good spot, yes. So Sarah Lee.
Sarah Lee.
We know so little about her, and there's no dates on this. I say, is this slightly open here? Do you think? I point to it with my cane. Is that a slightly weak part of the structure, or is that my imagination?
On Sarah Lee's?
Yeah. Or is it?
That's your. That's
oh no, it's just the shadow. It's just the shadow.
Back to Sydney.
Oh God.
You're still feeling slightly hazy, and you're possibly not sure why, but it seems to be getting more intense.
Sorry, Polly, you were here yesterday, weren't you?
Yes, of course, darling. I was meant to be meeting you, you silly goose. And you took your time about it, I'll tell you that.
Yes, you know there's a child gone missing?
Yes, no, I know, yes.
Yes.
This way, and he takes you by the elbow and sort of...
Good, Al. Are we nearly at the centre yet?
Yes, I think so.
What's at the centre? Chap said there was a statue or something.
Oh, there's a few statues, darling.
Oh, what of?
Have you bought your hats?
They're back in the house. I'm only wearing this pack-all for now.
Oh, that's a shame. I was hoping we'd have some hats to adorn them with. Well, that's all right. Maybe they'll have bought their own, eh?
Sorry?
No, I was just saying maybe they'll have bought their own.
Oh.
And he drags you around the next corner. Back to Edward and Peregrine. You're starting to feel slightly woozy now as well. You've not been marched as much, so it might be taking a while to really affect you, but you're starting to feel sort of slight grey patches in the corners of your vision.
I'll set the graves.
It's probably just exhaustion or something.
Tiredness. Sudden tiredness.
Yeah. But it's really starting to hit you. You still feel quite alert, but it's like your vision's going from the sides.
I'd like to do a botany roll.
Yes.
See, having looked at the herb garden, especially the herbs that I've cut from the outskirts, the ones that I thought were poisonous, like the Atropobelladonna, I think it was in a
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to use my botany. I know they're all poisonous, but I'd like to see if I can remember whether they have any other effects in lower doses. It was already playing on my mind, and now this slightly woozy feeling has just made me... So I'm doing a botany roll, and I've rolled a regular success. I can make it a hard success if that would be useful.
Your regular success reminds you just of the word. You're starting to find it hard to form sort of coherent thoughts at this point. But the word wolfsbane keeps coming back to you, and wolfsbane, Hemlock, no, wolfsbane, monkshood, wolfsbane, and you remember seeing the little the plants on the edges, and maybe were they cut? No, they weren't cut, but there were so many of them. How would I know? And you start to you're both starting to feel quite drowsy at this point.
Drugged. We've been drugged.
As you hear a voice behind you say, "Hello, gentlemen," and it's William. And as you whip round, we're going to cut back to Sydney. And Sydney, you're being dragged by your elbow around a corner, and your limbs are starting to feel heavier. But
I'd like to do a psychology roll if I can.
Yes, please do.
On Peter to see if I can glean any intent. What is whether the nature of his intent, if that's possible?
Yes, he's very intent on this whole. We'll put the wind up them. Let's hide from them and everything.
But do I believe him? I got an extreme success. I got an 11 on a 60.
Okay, so as he pulls your elbow one last time, you turn. And your head sort of lolls slightly because you're still feeling very woozy. You see an opening out in front of you, but instead of focusing on what might be the centre of the maze, what might be this section of the maze, some hidden thing, you let your head loll back and sort of let the momentum take it back up to Peter's face, and he has trickles of sweat down the side of his face, and he seems intently staring ahead of you, and as his voice is quite chipper and come on Sydney, his attitude is anything but.
I'd like to punch him as hard as I can in the face.
Excellent. Finally someone.
And now this is not my forte.
Sure.
I don't think it's any of our forte.
Oh dear. That's a 79 on a 25.
Okay.
A swing and a miss.
We'll leave it at that. He easily dodges what you're doing, and he catches your wrist in his and says, "Now, Sydney, we wouldn't like the surprise to be ruined, would we?" And he launches back and he plants a fist straight in your face. And unless you're trying to dodge, because technically this is combat.
I think I will try and dodge, actually.
He's got your arm, so it'll be
will I dodge? Hang on, let me think about this. No, I'm gonna fight back. I'm gonna try and punch him.
Excellent.
Oh, I got. What is that? That's a hard success. I got a 10 on a 25.
Okay, I got an extreme success. But he punches you, and you catch his arm just in time to sort of pull it down, and you're sort of clinging to his arm. And he, so he's sort of like knocked you, but you're still conscious.
I say,
is there something
who the hell are you? Who the hell are you, and who the hell is William Peretti?
He almost seems relieved. He almost seems like, it seems like a shaking off of whatever he had to be dealing with before, and he just says, I'm who you know I am, darling. It's just me, Polly. Isn't that what you used to call me? Polly?
I
He
called
shakes his
you.
arm out again,
I
and
didn't.
he goes to hit you again.
It was Eddie who called you Polly.
Stu,
Are you going to dodge, or are you going to
I'm going to try and punch him again.
do it? Do it.
Queensbury rules, is it?
I believe it is.
That is a regular success.
That's another extreme success.
For sake.
Is he taking any damage?
He will after he's unconscious. So you are, unfortunately, you see his arm. You flail valiantly, but you see a fist coming towards you and just knocking you into darkness. And my damage is... Okay, so you take 6 damage,
Oh, God.
which it's not that bad.
Well,
broken nose.
it is a major
Bad for a
wound.
punch.
It's a major
Major wound.
major
It's a major wound.
wound.
Broken nose. Broken nose.
Meanwhile, back in the graveyard, William Purdue is approaching you, gentlemen, and you're sort of... I don't know if you're propping yourself up on the graves or if you're...
I'm leaning on my cane.
You're feeling all right. It may just be wooziness. You're nowhere near as bad as Sydney.
William,
But,
this isn't the old Rajasthani switch, is it? You wouldn't have put something in my tea, would you?
oh, I don't know what you're talking about, sir. Mr. Ainsworth's arrived. Mr. Ainsworth's here, sir.
Polly Ainsworth's here, Peter.
Yes.
I do my best to cast a glance back to Peregrine, but the motion of it makes me feel a bit sick. And I swing back and I sort of stagger slightly on the cane, and then I do start to lean on one of the graves. And I say, aren't you supposed to be with him? What's going on?
Oh, easy there, sir. You don't want to knock over the graves there.
No, you listen to me, and I point my stick at him. You answer my question.
Well-
I've had enough of your evasive business,
Quite right, sir. I'm sorry, sir.
as I can feel my stick sort of slightly swinging around.
And I take out. I'm still holding the flute, and I take it out and I start sort of pointing it at him as well. Just instinctively, this is a thing to brandish, and I'm holding.
When he sees the flute, he looks quite unsettled. But he looks more threatened than from the stick.
Do I spot that as well?
Yeah, I think it's obvious.
It's obvious he's unsettled.
It's not it's just surprise.
What the hell is going on here?
Well, no, sir.
No, don't you now, sir, me. You fobbed me off from the moment that I met you. No other staff in my house. No one will be treated like this. This isn't England. This is madness. This is a lost country. This is a forgotten place. Well, I'll have you know right now, young Mr. William Purdue, or whoever you think you are. My name is Edward Gerald Kister, and I've inherited here. And oh dear, I think my leg's going. My leg's going. Peregrine, my leg's going.
I reach out to try and take Ned's hand and just sort of tumble on top of him.
You drugged us, you bastard! And I'm going to swing at him.
And I'm flailing around with the flute.
Oh, do. Yeah. So you're both flailing at him. Give it a go.
Yeah. Yes. I'm going to attempt to hit him. Oh, my dex is so bad, I'll go last.
Yeah, my dex is all right, actually. 60. Not bad. Yes, this is... Am I faster than him? Or as well, of course, I'm drugged, so Danann will, no doubt, punish me for that. I'm trying to find my club skill, because I know I've got it. There it is. Vast. It's a vast 36. Stand back. I'm using a club.
Excellent.
24. I thank you.
So,
I have hit.
excellent.
Unless
So,
he dodges.
well, no, I rolled. He doesn't dodge. You catch him, I suppose, in the leg. As this Malapane drops down to one knee, but immediately sort of grabs the club and pushes it down into the earth and raises himself up again. And you're sort of reminded for an instant how the first time you saw him, this sort of quite short-cut hair, salt and pepper, sort of like ginger, greying hair. He looked very sort of built, quite wiry, and you're reminded of that strength as he gets up. But there's nothing aggressive about his posture. He sort of seems very kindly, and he offers you a hand and says, "Well, I'm sorry, sir. If you the spores around here, you know better than me, sir. sometimes the plants, they do release their pollens, and it can be too much. It can overpower. We'll go and lower you down if that helps. And
as he says that, I do a quick mental through my sort of like botanical Rolodex to see if this time of the year there could be any plants giving off spores that might be having this effect on us. Doing a botany roll, and I fail it, so I don't know.
He seems genuine. Well, he seems as genuine as someone who you're that suspicious of. Genuine. He seems genuinely concerned about you. Going back to you, Sydney, I suppose it's a bit like our little session last time where I ask you if you're still warm and you're still safe, but it's not quite the same because you're unconscious, but through it all you can feel certain things, and you're sort of flashing back to your time at the Palladium and your time in the sort of do you remember when you did the tank escape? Will the knot hold? Or can I... that sort of thing. It was before you moved strictly into mesmerism. Some people were more in it for the thrill. But you remember some of that thing. And you remember... Basically, you feel your hands being tied very tightly behind you and your knees being sort of wrestled into quite a hard groove. And your neck being propped on something cold.
Oh, God.
And hard.
At this point, is it possible... I know I'm unconscious, but is it possible to induce through self-hypnosis an out-of-body experience?
I hope it is.
There's only one way to find out.
Let's try it.
Let's roll those dice.
I think to myself, I've tried this 1,000 times and it's never worked. Now, how successful do you imagine you'd have to be on this kind of...
Are you going for astral projection or are you going for possession? Or
possession would be ideal. But otherwise,
that would have to be.
astral projection at least, so I can... my objectives are, in this order of priority, preference, possess whoever's doing this so I can stop them, alert Peregrine and Ned and get them to help, or at least get outside my body so I could see what's going on.
At least.
Yeah.
I think
At least achieve astral projection.
number 3 is...
That's the least I could hope for.
I'd at least like to get astral projection. Come
An
on.
accomplished mesmerist.
Yeah.
Come on.
Right, here we go then. The role for Sidney Wagner of the entire game, I would argue.
I would argue.
Now, I'll tell you what I've got.
No.
What I've rolled.
Now, for hypnosis,
Jump to conclusions.
I have a 65 in hypnosis, and I've rolled a 67. But I have an unfathomable amount of luck, and I'm willing to burn it all at this stage.
Right.
So what level of success do I need to achieve something that I've just described? Or to achieve anything that is better than this?
Well, it's tricky, isn't it? Because for my money, I'm not operating from a view of telekinesis or possession necessarily being a thing. I'm sort of... I can maybe grant you a level of astral projection if you're up for that. That's the most I can offer you. If you want to spend all your luck, maybe you have some out-of-body experience where you feel you're looking down.
Yeah, that'll do. I'll take that. I spend all my luck. I'm out of luck.
So
Shit out of luck.
Not even an excellent success. What about an excellent success? Would that have done it? Sorry, I'm such a...
well, I mean, it depends
That's
what
a
rules
Norfolk
are
boy.
operating by.
That's a Norfolk boy. I want to drive a hard bargain.
I don't believe
even
in
my
any of the shit he's saying.
Fair enough.
But there are ghosts.
Or are they?
Well,
Turning
okay,
into
so
bears.
what were your levels? It was astral projection,
Astral projection,
hypnotism, or
being able to somehow communicate, perhaps in some sort of spirit or ghostly form,
right.
to Ed and Peregrine. And then the top level, which I admit is far-fetched, possessing whoever's near me.
Okay. So, you spent all your luck.
Yeah.
Fuck it. You possess You possess Peter. You're still tied to the chain, but you suddenly awake in his mind, and you're there staring, looking at yourself, propped up on a weird pedestal, tied in tightly. What do you do?
Is there anyone else here?
It's just you and Sydney.
Nice.
First two thoughts are untie myself, obviously, or should I punch myself in the face?
Wait. Surely the first thought is, it worked.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
My God, it worked.
Oh my God, it worked.
I'm the best there's ever been.
Well, to be fair, you've spent all your luck on an extreme thing. In that moment, you have a slipstream thing where you're sort of seeing between Peter and William, and you can see yourself, Sydney, in the thing as Peter, and you can see Peregrine and Edward in their sort of slumped forms in the graveyard as William, and you're sort of sliding between those two people.
I've overdone
You
it.
might not be able to focus on either of them.
I've overdone it. I've overcooked it. Oh, rats. I'd like to view the pedestal I'm on, this whatever's on it, see if they can identify anything about it, glean anything from the surroundings, what I can see.
So
I presume all I've really got to go on is what I know.
you see yourself. So you see, as Peter, you see yourself, Sydney Wagner, and there's a row of these statues that look like the Berserker statues.
Oh no.
The things, but without heads. And you realise that Sydney's arms are strapped down by chains, and his mouth is over a stone shield, which is part of the statue.
Oh, God.
And there is a cord wrapped around his head with another set that seems to be set on a tightening loop.
Shit. Oh God, that's awful. I tell you what, the trade-off for this, I think, is probably there's going to be a sanity.
No
I'd say
fucking kidding, man.
that would be fair.
Oh, dear.
There's two actions that I'd like to do, and I accept that possibly only one or neither are possible. Priority one is to try and undo myself as Peter to try and rescue Sydney Wagner. My other action an ideal action that I would go for, if that's not possible, is to speak or try and communicate to Peregrine or Edward.
Well,
and warn them.
in my head, I sort of gave you the option of slipping more into Peter or more into William.
Okay.
You chose Peter to look at yourself.
Fine.
So I think you may have lost the connection with
That's
William.
fine. That's preferable anyway. So I'm going to try and force his hands to undo the chains.
Okay, so that's an opposed power roll, right?
I've got 60 in power.
I'm not going to tell you what what Peter has. But
10,000. Oh, well, I failed anyway.
yeah,
Rats.
I succeeded, but only just, so it could have been worse.
Oh, shit.
But you basically...
Can you push it?
Can push it. You don't have any luck.
I also haven't done the sanity roll yet, but that might not be relevant in a minute. If I can push it, I might as well push it.
I'll tell you what, do the sanity check and then push it.
Okay.
Just for a laugh.
I don't think Haster's on my side anymore. I rolled a 90 on my sanity.
Shit. Okay, so you lose another 3 sanity points.
Okay. I started on 60, and a fifth of 60 is 12, and
Yeah.
I haven't lost 10 yet, so we're okay.
No. Almost.
Almost. And now I shall push the power roll. I shall...
How are you doing it?
I am blending myself into Peter. I'm taking all of our shared memories and I'm latching onto them, fully in the knowledge that I might lose part of myself in the process.
It's beautiful.
I've read about this before.
Wow.
I've read about it.
All I've got to hold on to is my love of hats, and I think of all that to try and maintain my own sense of self. I think capuchon, fez. I got the fez
Excellent.
in Tunisia. The capuchon I bought from an old man in Germany, but I tell people that I got it from blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it goes on.
Yes, do your roll.
Oh, So the image of Hasta is obviously a 0, and I got
The 100.
100. I got 100.
Oh no.
Hasta is laughing at me.
So that's bad.
You go back
Worst thing
through.
could possibly be.
Roll 100 on a pushed roll when trying to control someone you're attempting to possess.
You go back through your memories of you and Peter together, trying to cling on to some sort of connection between you two. But all you do in zooming back through this sort of dark tunnel of sort of moments together is realise just how much disdain he's always had for you. Just how much every little Polly and every little nickname and every little sort of dismissive thing has built up a resentment. You realise you are him viewing you, and you see yourself in the succession of hats. You see this replacement for a personality. You see this, and all you feel is disdain towards Sidney Wagner. And as it gets closer to the time, you feel your own body as Peter pick up something heavy to the side of you and just clock you around the head, and you watch yourself as you smash a huge bronze hammer across Sidney Wagner's head.
Oh no. Horrible.
And
very Midsummer. Oh
give
no.
me 20 seconds and we'll finish up with you two.
God.
No, you'll be fine. You come to and you're sort of lolling against each other in the graveyard, but you're not quite sure why.
Can we still see Purdue?
Oh, we fell
He's
we fell
standing over,
unconscious.
he's helping you up.
Did we fall unconscious?
Well, no, you didn't fall unconscious at all. You sort of you felt slightly off balance, but it may have just been the sort of the overload of information and everything. You feel slightly nauseous, but you're doing all right.
I feel this ridiculous urge to. Basically, I had a difficult experience at school and my choral scholarship, so I felt kind of separated from my music, and I've kind of pushed that part of myself away from me for so long. But holding this flute, I just feel this urge to make music once more. And
That'd be nice.
I put the mouthpiece to my lips and just give it a gentle. And the flute wasn't my instrument, but I did. And my embouchure is still there. I played a bit of it, and
it's not the most beautiful flute in the world, but you hear a sort of a very whistly, a sort of faint, sort of almost like the wind through the awnings of an old house.
Does it sound like the whistling I heard in my dreams last night?
It does, yeah, almost exactly.
Oh dear.
And you realise, of course, your room would have been looking out over the fountain where you found the flute. But all that's sort of taken away in a second when this violent wind from the southern end, from the direction of the maze, picks up, and the trees start just being almost blown to smithereens, and
Oh God.
the whole herb garden is sort of thrashing back and forth, really violent sort of tsunami of a wind. And William sort of steadies himself on the thing and says, "Don't blow it, for God's sake. Don't blow that thing again. What are you trying to do?
Wagner!
Bring the old house down?"
Wagner! And I charge if I can, if I have any physical strength left to do this.
Yeah.
I'll charge across to where I think the maze is. Wagner! Sidney! Sid!
If you're just running, you're running, but you're being followed by William.
And also, Peregrine is stumbling after you as well.
Excellent. So, are you running to the maze?
Yeah,
Is that the idea?
yeah. Unless anyone tries to stop me.
Excellent. Well, William's trying to keep pace with you. He's not necessarily trying to stop you, but he's sort of being like, "Don't you worry, sir. I'll come along with you. I'm sure it can all be figured out."
You get back to hell, wherever you come from.
Oh no, don't be like that, sir.
I can be like what I want to be.
And he sort of he suddenly starts laughing quite hysterically and says, "Don't be like that, sir. Look, there's your friend. Your friend from the road."
I'll round on him, but then I'll look back over my shoulder nervously. What do you mean?
He's pointing towards the ruins on the lawn, on the edge of the lawn. Could you do me a spot hidden?
Yeah, I'd love to.
As you're running.
Should we both do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I got an extreme success on mine.
Mine's just a good success.
So as you're running, and he sort of laughs and he says, "Look, there's your friend from the road." You see this sort of very pale figure with his arms very high in the air, and you recognise the face, and it's
Leaf.
this face with like scraps of red hair, a very sort of moon-like face, in like a sort of white shift, but it's sort of stained with blood. And he's holding up what you think you're running and you're trying to keep track, but it's too much of a hypnotic image. He seems to be holding up some gloves. Is he wearing gloves? Is that what it is? And you realise, no, he's just holding up his hands, but they're destroyed. They're essentially finger bones with scraps of flesh just hanging off them like banana skins. And he's just waving those in the air and sort of smiling in a way that's unreasonable.
Oh God. I mean, I feel like that's a sanity roll for me.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. I mean, you said that we're still running. I haven't stopped to see this then. I just...
No, you're seeing this, you're just seeing him.
Oh, no. Wow. Yeah.
I've succeeded on my sanity roll.
No, I haven't.
Oh dear.
No. Because I think it's too close to the idea of what I've been dreading all along, which is that if there was someone behind the door who wasn't a bear demon...
You lose 3 sanity points.
Yes, that sort of makes sense. So I've lost 6 in total now. That's not that bad, because I did have 62.
So you're still running towards the entrance.
Well, I think I probably kind of clutching myself slightly, but a staggering run is being maintained, isn't it?
And you see, yes, so you've seen this frayed-fingered figure sort of waving horribly at you, but you're still focused on the entrance, both of you. And William's running alongside you, sort of trying to cajole you, trying to be like, "It's all right, sirs, don't you worry about that."
Wagner!
Ned!
Sydney!
Ned!
What have we done, Peregrine? What have we done?
Stop! I try and grab Ned's arm.
But I'm faster than him, and I just keep moving.
And as you do it, as you do that, Peregrine, William trips you.
Deliberately?
And, yes. And can you do me a dodge roll?
No, and I've by hit him with my full force, and it didn't even damage him, dude.
I'll do your dodge roll. My dodge is pretty much worst of any character ever. Oh, yeah, that's a fail.
Yeah, so he trips you and you go face down into the holly bushes around the outside of the maze as Edward runs onwards. And William runs onwards too. All you see is, as you're sort of raising yourself up, all you see is the skeletons of holly leaves, but mixed in with them bird bones or something. It's like you know how holly leaves take a long time to disintegrate?
Yeah.
And they become more and more skeletal. And you think you're on a mess of those that's quite prickly, but you realise it's mixed in with almost the same amount of bird bones, just in this sort of mass around the...
I can't help
grasses
myself.
around the
I
place.
have to know what kind of bird it is. So do a little natural world roll. That's a success. In fact, if I spend 1 luck, it's a hard success.
It's a robin. They're all robin bones.
They're all robin bones.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Well, you can't say for all, but
But the ones I find.
the ones that still have a bit of feather to them.
I think I've worked it out. This is where Christmas comes to die.
Oh, God. Just
Ho, ho, ho. You hear behind you. No.
while I'm lying there, if it's all right, unless you want to go to someone else, while I'm
Christmas comes to
lying there,
Please do.
in the holly bones, the holly leaves, and the robin bones. I feel this sense of guilt because I trusted this guy Purdue, and I was the one who was constantly saying I think he's on our side. We don't need to mistrust everyone. But he tripped me. It was so obvious. He tripped me deliberately. And what did he also tell me to do? He told me not to blow the flute. So I'll take it out again, and I am going to blow that flute like I've never blown anything before.
Yeah. And as you raise it to your lips, Edward, you've carried on, I assume, towards the entrance.
Unless I saw the deliberate tripping of my dear friend.
I don't think you did. I think William was just behind you, and Peregrine was just behind William.
It was fraught with fate, wasn't it, that moment? And I feel like his forward momentum, his arrogance...
And you were shouting, Sydney.
Has undone me.
I assumed you were.
My arrogance has undone me, and I think I've pressed on, going, I think I can save him. I think I can save Sydney.
So as you press in, as you sort of turn into the maze entrance, sort of wrestle through, you overcome your old fear. It's quite a positive moment, really. The gorse is shrugged off, and you sort of shoulder through some of the holly. Suddenly there's this... Sydney, you still have enough sentience left in you.
God.
In fact, the three of you, this wind, you hear... Peregrine, you're the one doing this. You blow the whistle, and you hear the same reedy thing, and then you hear the same sort of rush of a wind from the south. Which of you, have any of you, maybe none of you have any of you ever witnessed death? Like, have any of you ever watched someone die or been there at someone's bedside?
I've sat by many people's bedsides in the parish.
Yeah. Either of the other of you?
I think only once.
Once might be enough.
But it was out in India. Yeah. But what about you, Sydney?
No, I don't think so. I've seen an elephant die. It's what motivated me to become an activist for the abrogation of the elephant running laws in Bangladesh.
And you're literally saying all this out loud as you're strapped to this statue. It was an abrogation of elephant laws, and there's no one there really listening to you. For the other two of you, you hear this wind pick up, and there's a sort of catch in the wind, and it sounds horribly like a death rattle. Like a sort of... sort of sound. It picks up in the catch of the wind, and the wind's so violent it seems to throw the hedgerows slightly to the side, but only in one direction, and you just get a horribly brief sensation of the idea of dead things throwing themselves in a certain direction. That's what you get from blowing the whistle.
I think I saw an old woman die by the side of the road, injured in a carriage incident. In India.
And as her body gave out the last breath.
That last breath was memorable.
Yeah, it's not nice. So, Edward, as you forge onwards through the hedgerows, William is almost level with you the whole way, sort of just being encouraging and sort of saying, "It's just this way, sir. We'll find him in a second. Don't you worry. 2 to the left, 1 to the right. There we go, and we'll be with Mr. Wagner shortly."
Sydney, we're coming.
And
Peregrine, where are you?
Vista suddenly opens out towards you, and you see this square, and you look around and you realise William's gone, but you have just entered the centre of what you assume is the centre of the maze, and there's lines of statues along the sides. There's a sort of brass dome in the middle. There's sort of parallel planting sort of pieces in the middle, but you're there. You're at the centre of the maze, and the wind quietens.
Can I see Sydney?
Yes, although you don't think it's Sydney at first. You think it's part of a statue.
God. Peregrine!
And if you're drawing near...
Peregrine, can you hear me?
Peregrine, are you entering the maze as well?
No.
No.
I'm having experienced what's just happened, blowing this flute and experiencing this.
Yeah.
I start running back towards the house. I think this house must be full of artifacts that have these strange effects. There was the bowl, there was the potentially maybe what was a rug in the study. There's this flute. There must be something that can help. So I run towards the house.
And as you're running, you realise something in your peripheral vision is running alongside you. And it's Leaf. And you see his hands up in the air like that. And the sort of the skin sort of trailing off his bone fingers where they've not snapped off. And he's sort of whooping. Sort of, he seems very excited. And he's running alongside you, sort of whooping, as if he's going to come with you to find whatever you're looking for.
And I, as I'm running, I just start saying, "Go up, you bald head! Go up, you bald head! Go up, you bald head!"
And he laughs. He laughs and then starts slapping himself in the head with his own hands. But he carries on. He carries on in the same direction.
Oh.
Meanwhile, Edward, you've made your way over to the statue at the end, where you find Sydney, who's still breathing. You realise his arms are pulled out by chains, and his legs are similar, but his knees sort of have been made to fit into this groove at the back of these statues, these rows of statues. They're like statues of berserker pieces. And his mouth has been his head has been tied in place, and his mouth is over the rim of the stone shield
Now,
at the front of the statue.
when you describe a mouth being over the rim of a stone shield, is this the kind of moment where one looks at a thing and goes, that is dentally a position from which one never returns?
No, this is. Do you know the Isle of Lewis chess piece?
I know that. I know the kind of image you're.
So
describing.
it's maybe the shield is maybe like 2 inches thick, and his head has been strapped into position, so it's
and so his
between the teeth, and his head's facing down, and there's a bit of like leather strap wound about his jaw and head, tied to the arms of the statue.
Yeah. But
And he's sort of been left there, and he's clearly bleeding quite heavily, and he's clearly not had a good time of it, but he's still breathing.
Christ. I mean, I've got my pocket knife. I think I'd try and cut him loose if I could.
Yeah, you're getting running lost in Bangladesh.
Is he conscious? Is he making those sort of noises?
He's sort of maybe coming around slightly.
Nothing.
If you're sort of trying to rouse him, so
Yeah, I think that's absolutely my priority. If I can have the wits to still cut him loose,
yeah,
I feel like he'd like to do. And unless anything happens in the process, I will try and cut him loose and kind of bring him down. But I'll also yell, "Peregrine! I found him! I found him!" Sydney, it's all right, Sydney. We'll get you out of here. Oh, God, what a mess.
Listen, there's something you should know about Peter Ainsworth. He hates us. He really, really hates us.
Polly?
He hates me, and he hates Perry, and he hates you, Eddie, and I don't know why. Oh my God. What the hell? And I point behind you.
No.
We need to get out of here, look. Look at the
Stupidly, because I am that person in this story, I look.
and you see the Green Man, of course, a huge figure, a huge primal figure. Perhaps not. What you see is a huge bunch of bushes, almost many trees in height. It seems initially, and then of course, you sort of adjust to the distance. You realise it's perhaps only just over a man's height, but this huge smiling face wrapped in holly, and it's bearing down behind you.
I grab hold of Ed's legs from the floor. I go, I told you we should burn the maze. Burn Samuel Martin! Samuel Martins, if you're here! Now's the time to show yourself!
Yes. Yes. God, yes. Ha. 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 Mutato nomine de te fabula narratur.
Are you dodging or are you lessening?
Look into my eyes. Look nowhere else. Look into my eyes.
I think that was my moment of madness. I'm dodging if someone's trying to hit me. I'm dodging, but only if I pass. Presumably only if I pass my sanity check. But I don't know. Up to you.
How did your sanity check?
I haven't done it yet. You didn't ask me to do one, no.
I didn't. Well, but you did it in my place.
I feel like
if you'd like to do a
sanity
sanity check,
I should do a sanity check, right?
I think you probably should. Meanwhile, while you're checking, Peregrine, you make the front door of the house. If you're still running in that direction, is that what you intend to do? Is to go into the house?
Yeah, go into the house.
So you pull on the front doors and you realise they've been locked.
Were they ever open?
I go to. I remember the dining room had big glass windows.
Yeah.
And I go and I.
They're a couple of meters off the ground from outside, but they're there. Well, if you're good at climbing. Meanwhile, Leaf, or who you assume is Leaf, is sort of running loose-armed backwards. He doesn't seem to be coming much closer to you, but he seems more and more excited the more you don't know where you're going. And you're trying not to look at him because his hands are so disturbing.
I say to I come to my senses and I think this is a poor wretch next to me. I have to. It's my duty to check he's okay. And I say, "Are you in any pain?"
And you sort of.
Your name is Leaf, is that right? What is your connection to this place?
And he sort of shows you his hands again as if you're going to be impressed. But there's also something in the sound that he's making that reminds you of very late last night, after the noise when you were knocking on the door, trying to get answers from this thing outside. For a while, all you'd hear is knocks or childish crying, and then right towards the end, you heard sort of a deeper voice crying, and it sort of reminds you of that. You hear a slightly deeper voice, but it seems childlike, and he sort of, as he sort of is excited and laughing, you hear this sort of sobbing coming out underneath as he shows you his fingers. He thinks you'll be impressed. It's like he's going, "Look what I've done, look what I've done." And you don't know what it is that he's done, but you can see he's ruined his hands.
How have you done this?
And he sort of like points with his flapping limbs over towards the temple, and just starts giggling and sort of bouncing up and down.
Oh, you're gonna have to run to the temple.
Do you know a way into this house?
He's not really responding in a helpful way.
You were in this house last night. How did you get in?
He's sort of randomly pointing at doors and windows with his sort of ragged hands. It doesn't look like he's being deliberately useless, but it's like he doesn't understand things on the level you're.
And the way he got in is no longer the way we can get in. Yeah.
Meanwhile, as you're out there, Edward and Sydney, how did you do on your sanity rolls?
I succeeded.
I mean, I'm open-mouthed, but at the same time, if something's swinging at me, I succeeded and I'm dodging.
Excellent. Did you roll for dodge?
I shall now.
Please do.
And I have passed.
Excellent. Okay, so this sort of holly bush bears down behind you as Sydney points. Well, doesn't quite point because his arms aren't quite capable, but you roll to the side and this thing sort of lunges, and you look up and see a face behind it, and you see that, well, who do you think it is?
Peter Ainsworth.
No.
Is it?
It's William. And behind him, another bush separates, and there's Polly. And they're in these sort of, like, it's like they've bound this holly round them. They almost look like sumo wrestlers. There's something about it. But they're there, and they're both behind you. And you're entirely their focus.
Oh, Christ.
Tell me you brought the shotgun, Ed.
Run! I think we're trying to escape.
I will certainly do my best.
If such a thing is possible, I want to try and go back for it.
Use my legs.
Sydney's chained.
Oh, he's chained. So I only cut the
His arms
cords
are.
around his. neck.
Oh, his wrists are sort of chained, pulling him out like that.
Oh, God.
The rest of it's only twine, but there's two rather powerful men looking at you. They're not attacking you necessarily, but they're waiting to see what you'll do next. And it's starting to get dark again.
I break the top of my cane off, and I take my handkerchief out, and I wrap it around it, and I take my matches, and I pull out a match in the box.
I'm allowing this as
Yeah. Only. I mean, I'm waiting to see whether I'm going to be stopped.
They're watching you
Because it contains the alcohol. That is in my.
Well, they/me didn't realise.
Yeah. So now they smell it, maybe. Now they smell it.
No, Edward.
Burn them!
And I start, even with my hand burning, I effectively charge towards them.
So, you just trying to set them alight?
I think.
They separate as soon as you run towards them, so which one are you aiming for?
Shitless, yeah.
Burn them in their hedge costumes.
Yeah. And is there anything else that would burn? If they are reacting?
Well, if you're running straight at them, one of them, for a start, Peter has dived out of the way, and he has gone into he's half gone into the entrance. You know, you've got this central piece that you're all in, the statues, and the entrance, there's an entrance on either side. He's dived into the entrance. His legs are still visible, but he's disturbed something on the floor. And you suddenly hear a sort of sucking noise and a sort of emptying noise and a sort of screeching noise, and you see his legs kicking slightly, and then
He's just tumbled into the septic tank.
Absolutely, yes.
That's why it's not a maze on the house plans. It's just a square. 'Cause it's the
And if any of you want to give me a spot hidden looking around you at that moment, that would be acceptable.
Pass, but it's not a good success. It's just a solid success.
So, okay, well, with a pass but not a solid success, all you see is a stoat or something. You think it's a stoat or a weasel.
It's like the end of Wind in the Willows. They've come to take the house back.
Running along the top of one of the hedgerows. You know that very distinctive sort of run that stoat, you know, the sort of musculid run and thing. But then, like, in that brief moment, although you've only had a normal success, what you do realise is that your perspective's slightly off, and what you thought was a very close hedgerow isn't. And the thing you're looking at must be at least the size of a person, but its limbs aren't quite right, and it's running with the speed of a stoat or something like that. It looks like this sort of raggedy thing running along the top of the hedgerows, and as it catches you looking, it disappears. Peter, meanwhile, has been made short work of, it seems, as he's disappeared into the darkness.
Turn themselves into animals.
And so you're left with Sydney strapped to this statue, William towering above you as the sort of Holly King, and Peregrine remonstrating with the ragged, trousered philanthropist, Leaf.
Where's that dog?
Yeah.
Who was that dog?
Where's our heroic companion?
Who was that dog, though?
Has anyone tried shouting for him? I mean, he always seems to come when you call, but...
Ben! I'll start shouting it. God's sake.
I say to
Desperate times.
I say to Leaf, are you a friend of ours?
He sort of takes you in and sort of, it's like he's trying to shrug, it's like he's trying to be casual, but obviously his movements are anything but. He's trying to imitate that, and he just pulls his shirt up, and you see a very fresh knife wound in his stomach, and he sort of shrugs at you and says, "Friend," points at the knife wound.
God.
I'm sorry, that was me.
Meanwhile, the Christian journey continues.
Can you get me inside the house?
And he sort of shrugs a bit more. And it seems like, why he doesn't trust you to help you. He was excited that everything was going to hell, and now you've confused him. He's sort of showing you what he'd done with his fingers. Why aren't you... He sort of shows you his fingers.
Why is he even fucking here?
Why aren't you impressed? Why aren't you impressed with these? Look.
That's what you have done to yourself is incredible. In the truest sense of the word.
And he points over to the ruins again.
Show me. Take me.
And he starts running like a stoat along the ground, sort of like trying to...
Oh, dear.
Sort of doing a sort of movement like that. It would be comical if it wasn't so disturbing, if the scenario wasn't so horrible. And meanwhile, we go back to Edward and Sydney.
I say, Edward, what's the Anglo-Saxon or Old Norse for any animal that we could call to us? A dog? Wolf.
Wolf. Ben. Wolf.
So Edward, William goes for you and tries to knock you out. Are you going to dodge, or are you going to...
Christ, yes. I'm going to try and dodge again.
Okay, great. You see his arms seem extended by this sort of holly bush thing he's wearing, but obviously you'd need to connect properly to...
So this is a combat roll, so it's only luck. I can't push it. I have failed. Of course, it is the leg that was caught in the gorse finally counts against me. And as I
rolled... Well, you don't need to know the stats, but I rolled a 4, which is remarkable.
And I rolled an 85, which is my leg just gives way. And
your leg gives way, and he clocks you around the side of the head, and you take... well, you've done all right there. You only take 2 damage.
And where does my flaming torch go?
Skitters away slightly, but it's still near you. But what you see him step in, and you realise not only is he dressed in this huge holly bush, but he's holding in one hand a bronze hammer, and in the other a bronze sickle. And Sydney, he puts one hand on your head, and he goes about breaking your knees and elbows. No, it's a heavy hammer, so it only takes a couple of blows to each, and then he ties the chains, which sort of pulls them out of joint.
Oh, God.
And he tightens... This is as you're watching, Edward, but you're still so woozy from the blow. He tightens the leather thong around Sydney's head until his teeth shatter on the stone shield. And then, lastly, he takes the sickle and opens up your throat and collects it in the bronze bowl. Good night, Sydney.
Oh, dear.
Edward, as you watch, he brings the bowl over to the sort of bronze dome in the centre, which you're only just realising has... are those markings the same? I can't remember. There's something in your head and the sort of doziness after being knocked out. The biblical... The sort of Latin you recited a couple of sessions ago come to mind, the sort of concept of as above, so below. But either way, it looks the same. And a smear goes on there, and you see this sort of holly bush raise the bowl and drink the blood. Peregrine, where are you?
I've been following Leaf to the temple, if that's where he's been going.
Yeah, he's not been going to the temple. He stops at the ruins, the sort of the grooves cut into the grass, the sort of fake Roman ruins that you'd almost tripped into the night before, looking for the temple itself. And he's sort of pointing at like an end of the like a sort of cul-de-sac in those grooves.
Like a sort of trench.
Yeah, it's like there's bits of it that are trench and there's bits of it that are like a knee-high wall, and it sort of alternates between the two. You know, those sort of old stonework things.
Yeah.
But But he's very excitedly pointing with his horribly flapping fingers in one direction, down a sort of...
Suppose I look at what he's pointing at.
He gets out of your way, and he's quite excited. And as you look, it's sort of... again, you've not seen the ruins in the daylight particularly. You haven't looked at them up close, but the majority of them look like what you'd expect from a folly, a sort of a fake set of Roman ruins or something, you know. But you realise there's this sort of black spot at the end of this. I think it looks like a tunnel someone's dug into the earth, and suddenly you start thinking about Leaf's hands and why they might look that way. And there's this sort of tunnel dug down into the silt, into the earth, and almost, it seems, into the stone potentially. Do you still have a lantern with you?
No, because when I came out, it was day.
That's all right. It's still a bit of light in the sky, but it's just getting
probably
to
have
that.
Would I have a period? Would I have a lighter, a little gas lighter?
Possibly. You can argue for it.
I will argue for a little.
So I'd say that
gas lighter.
It flicks into light, and you see that there's sort of claw marks around this very slim hole leading down to the earth, and you can sense Leaf behind you, sort of half clapping, half sort of looking towards you, egging you on. And it's like the stonework of the ruins have been pulled away, and underneath there's other stones, there's other types of brick, it seems like a mess of things. But as you look in, there's essentially a very small, dark sort of crack in the earth with what look like a sort of claw marks around it.
What size of a creature or person could fit through?
You couldn't fit through. It's quite wide, but it's not very... it's quite long, but it's not very wide. It seems like... nothing big could fit through that. But it seems like a lot has been pulled away to even reach it, if that makes sense.
Well, does it make sense? I'm going to get down and have a closer look.
Yeah. Do you want to do me a history roll or an archaeology roll?
I think what could I do? History. I could do history. Oh, I passed my history.
So your history roll yields, as you're sort of going through, because it's quite a narrow hole, you're quite distracted by Leaf behind you, but you get the impression of the frontispiece of this is the same as the rest of the ruins. It's sort of a false Roman ruins for the sake of sort of leading dinner party guests around and going, oh, look at her, oh, there's the temple, isn't it so quaint? But then as you go through this thing that's been dug, it's like someone's pulled away those bricks and there were genuine bricks underneath it. It's like you suddenly get the impression of someone trying to cover up their genuineness with a sort of false show of... it's like those false stones have been pulled away and it's like they've been layered on top of something that's very, very real. And you suddenly get that impression. And then as you go past that, as the tunnel gets narrower, there's stone that seems even older than that, but still built into the wall. It seems like a sort of a layer cake of history going back just in this one spot, and it only goes down maybe 4 meters until it's insurpassable, but it all leads to this one crack at the end that sort of the stone seems to have been pulled away in claw marks, but it's still not very wide.
Can I have a closer look at the crack with a spot hidden?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to tell me anything. I've succeeded in my spot hidden.
So you don't see anything except blackness, but you notice there's blood in the claw marks.
Yeah.
And you look back and obviously you see Leaf sort of clapping behind you. Meanwhile, back in the centre of the maze, Edward.
Oh dear.
So I'd say you're... you witnessed what happened to Sydney, but I think it hasn't knocked you unconscious, so you're, even if slightly dazed, you're ready to move again.
Well, because I'm on the ground, and if I have some limited capacity to move,
Yes.
as I see the death of, well, one of my two closest friends occur before me in some terrible ritual sacrifice,
Yes.
rage inspires me, but I'm aware that this will ultimately destroy myself. To try and do anything to stop whatever is being attempted here is my aim. So I would hate for his life to be turned to an act of evil, demonic evil,
Yes.
as I would my own. And I'm just hoping against hope that Peregrine is still able to stay out of this awful, sinful place. And I reach out for the flaming remnants of my cane and handkerchief and the burning liquor that is there. And I drag it down to my cursed right leg, and I set fire to the tweed and my coat. Once I see it taking, of course I can feel the heat on the scarring there, which is always so thick and particularly gruesome, so much so that it's quite deadened to feeling, that leg.
Yeah.
But I can see the leg burning, and then I drag myself up and I charge. Once I know that I'm ablaze, at least on the leg, I'm going to charge at the green man.
It's going kamikaze.
And I'm going to hurl myself bodily at the blasphemy.
Yes.
And I shall cry out with my final words, if I may, unless there are no final words, because it's perfectly acceptable, you tell me,
I'd rather there were.
that there are no final words.
No, you have the strength in you to shout something as you
And I
lunge.
say, when I say to him, well, I say to him what I said that you'd already perverted. Astra, non. What's bind in Latin again, lads? What's bind in Latin? I can't remember it without looking it up. Astra non. I can barely remember it. As the smoke of the sickening stench of
You're in
my own
slow
burning,
motion, sort of
the burning flesh
through the air.
creeping up
Obligant?
through my mouth. Astra non obligant. It's almost as if I hear Peregrine in the classroom, and I remember in that moment, obligant. I hear the freshness of his voice, and I also realise how badly I bullied him. I realise how badly I bullied Holly Ainsworth, and how Sydney and I were not always the nicest of friends. And I think, obligant, astra non obligant, astra inclinant. We are not bound by the stars. We are but shaped by them. And then I lunged onto him. And that is the end.
It's quite moving, you know. In the moment, he looks over to Sydney's broken body and sort of spilling from the throat, and sees this. You know, for all his flaws, this was a charming man. He really was charming, as he said himself multiple times. But you know, it's a waste, and he felt this anger, and he obviously lunged and shouted this Latin, and unfortunately, as he sort of hits this solid wall of hedge of holly, very little happens. There's nothing flammable, and he's snuffed out very quickly.
Oh, God.
Peregrine,
Oh, God.
where are you?
He's in a ditch saying, "Oh, God. Oh, God." Well, I'm looking at this crack that's been dug out. I'm looking up at Leaf. Why have you shown me this? Why have you shown me this, Leaf?
Leaf sort of starts. He sort of gets down on all fours and he starts running around in circles, like very flat to the floor, sort of biting at the air, and then sort of pointing at the crack, and then pointing at the maze, and then laughing.
I look at the crack again. I think this must be a clue to something. I don't know what, but there's not room for me to crawl in, but maybe there's room for me to push my hand in.
Yeah, there is. Yeah,
Okay, I push my hand in to see what I can feel.
it it goes into nothing. It's like a drop away. There's suddenly through the crack. It's like it could be a cave system. It could be, God knows how wide it is. But there's nothing giving on the other side. There's no sides. You can fold your hand round on either side and sort of feel the edges of the earth, the stone. But out the middle, it's like there's a huge chasm in there.
Can any more of this earth be pulled away easily?
Well, you've sort of got a living testament to you that it can.
Oh God!
Standing behind you, flapping his hands.
But what? But why? I look back at him and I say, "Why? What is this for?"
He sort of smiles and then looks like he's about to cry, and then does the same thing, sort of circles round on all fours and sort of nods towards the maze. And this time, as he does, you hear a sort of a very deep voice coming from over in the maze and sort of saying, "Peregrine? You out there, Peregrine?"
Does it sound like William Purdue?
Give me a listen roll.
I fail, but but my listening is good. I think I'm just panicking, so I steel myself. Take a deep breath. I take a deep breath and stick my head up over the ditch because I'm in the ditch. That's why I can't hear. And I have another listen, and this time I succeed in my listen roll.
It does sound like William Purdue, but it sounds less husky, less haggard, younger. I would say.
Like he's been rejuvenated somehow.
Yeah, that's a good guess. Peregrine, don't hide now. Come on, let's celebrate a good night's celebration, shall we?
I look across at Leaf. How does he seem to react to this voice?
He's nervous. He's sort of tentative. He's sort of crouching down. He's not. It doesn't look like he's going to stick around and. I say, Leaf, do you know the way back to the town? He sort of, it looks like he wants to trust you. Could you give me like a persuade or a charm or, I don't know I'll let you decide, but
do you know what I'm going to do?
Try and recruit him.
I'm going to try an animal handling roll. And I'm going to try
I was almost going to suggest that myself, and I thought it would be too...
And I'm going to try and treat him like a
distressed
small
animal.
mammal, like a small distressed animal.
He's clearly very injured, you know. It makes sense.
And I rolled a 1.
Wow. So he... I mean, I don't know how you're doing it particularly, but
I'm giving it a bit of. I'm holding my hand, the back of my hand, and my knuckles towards his nose for him to just sort of sniff my knuckles, so it's clear that I'm not a threat. And then I hold out my palm to his
and
mouth,
he sort of,
and I just touch his hair with my other hand.
You get a sense of that. He sort of he pulls his shirt slightly and shows you the knife wound, which you know that you made. And he sort of looks questioning at you, but he seems satisfied by your hand. It feels like
he shows me that I lower my head, like my gaze away from him, like an animal might be submissive.
And he, as soon as you do that, he sort of he lifts your head up and he seems excited again, and he drags you over.
And I say, Leaf, lead us out of this place and back to safety.
And he immediately grabs you by hand, and it's like he's dragging you through the ruins and over towards the temple. And immediately, as you hear this sort of booming voice in the distance, the last sort of Peregrine, he drags you, and you fall with him into this fish pond, this water surrounding the temple. And from then on, for the next few minutes, it's sort of up and down, sort of breathing above the pond and sort of making a way through these murky waters. You're being led by Leaf the whole way, sort of clasping your hand very tightly. And it seems like, it's what seems like hours. You're and it's not all water, like it's marshlands, and then it's muddy fields and hedgerows, and all the time the only thing you can sort of see, the only thing you can cling to in any scenario is there's always sprigs of holly, or there's always holly bushes. It seems like there's a pattern being woven through the countryside. But just as the sun is rising the next day, you find yourself, you sort of wake up, you come to in a field, the corner of a field, and you hear the whistling of a train, and you feel this sort of, not hand, but this sort of like wrist waking you, sort of pushing at your face, and then as you wake up, sort of scampering away, and you wake up ragged, sodden, in the corner of a field. And if you stand up and look around,
I do.
You see some buildings nearby. You see a plume of smoke over in the west, and as you stagger forwards, you hear a booming voice, and you're taken aback for a moment because it sounds like the rejuvenated voice of William from inside the maze. But in actual fact, you sort of think back and you realise it's Tom. It's Tom Partridge, and you just hear him saying, another load, is it? Well, get them on the back there, don't you worry about them. And you suddenly realise you must be next to King's Lynn, you must be on the outskirts of King's Lynn, and Leaf must have dragged you all the way back. And there's no sign of him now, but you feel he was there with you a moment before, and whatever state he's in now, perhaps he found some peace in that last action as well.
Well, whatever wretched life he led, he's earned God's forgiveness and a place in the kingdom of heaven with what he did for me last night. That wretch saved me.
This was an Apocalypse Players production. Sidney Wagner was played by Dominic Allen. Edward Caister was played by Joseph Chance. Reverend Peregrine McCutcheon was played by Dan Wheeler. The Keeper of Arcane Lore was Danann McAleer. A Christmas Inheritance is an original scenario by Danann McAleer for Call of Cthulhu 7th edition by Paul Fricker, Mike Mason and friends. You can keep up to date with the Apocalypse Players podcast by going to apocalypseplayers.com. Thanks for listening. Hello listeners, it's Dom here. I just wanted to say, on behalf of Joseph, Dan, Danann and myself, thank you for listening to the podcast so far. We hope you're enjoying the scenarios. Next week, we'll be resuming our Soviet psychodrama, Machine Tractor Station Kharkov 37, and we hope you can join us for that. We've also got lots of very exciting stuff coming out in its wake, brand new scenarios, old classics, and special guests, so please do subscribe if you haven't already. We'd love to hear from you too, so do feel free to get in touch. We're APOC Players on Twitter, or you can go to our website, apocalypseplayers.com, if you want to leave feedback, comments, or just say hello. And if you're enjoying it, we'd really, really appreciate you leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you happen to listen. And of course, telling your friends. So until next time, don't get lost in any mazes, and take it easy, wherever you are.
So, well, yeah, I feel bad because he didn't even have a chance to roll, bless him. But,
I think he got the Latin wrong as well.
It's a real shame.